This is Main Street with Gary Allen. Now, here's Gary.
And good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Main Street. Gary Allen with you. I have a couple of guests who will be joining us. You can see them somewhat now, I suppose. We're going to talk about the WBC today. We're also going to be discussing the brackets for the NCAA tournament coming up. We're going to talk about Bam Adebayo's 83-point new record high in the NBA, which I think was bogus, but we're going to have a special guest joining us who was at the game, who was also an assistant with the Washington Wizards. So I'm excited about that. And we're going to talk some baseball. We're going to talk maybe a little football, wherever it takes us. We're just going to have some fun here. Would you please welcome to the program Mr. Dave Lamont and Mr. Drake Lamont.
How you doing?
Hey, Mr. Drake, how are you? This is first time on the program.
I'm doing
First
great.
time. Before we go anywhere, what's that WBC game fantastic last night?
Yeah, I watched some of it, Drake. I don't know how much you saw. We're both big proponents of the WBC. I'm kind of bummed that I can't make it down to the finals, even though it's in our backyard.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I caught the last, 4 or 5 innings. Like after the game went from 2-1 is when I kind of watched kind of the rest of it. And as much as you can say that USA won that game, I mean, the Dominican had guys on base every inning, all the way to the ninth. They just couldn't get a run in.
If we don't start hitting, we're not going to win the finals. We got to start hitting. They have not been hitting at all.
I just wonder, let's see, what kind of pitching the opponent will have. I think they beat the best team. They knocked out, to me, the biggest threat. That the top of that lineup is insanely stacked. And so I would have to believe that no matter who gets through to the finals, the United States would be the favorite. You're right. A little more offense would be nice, but you win 1-0. Just win.
Yeah, I know. I mean, a win is a win is a win, whether it's by 1 point or 100 points. But wouldn't you like to have a little distance going into the 8th and 9th inning between you and your opponent? I mean, 4-1, 5-1, that would be nice, and they have not been hitting except for the first couple of games. And I'm really surprised at my boy, Mr. Harper. He's 3 for like 29 or 30 or something at this point. He's not been hitting off. Schwarber has been striking out, although he's been hitting a little more consistently than Harper.
Hold on. He's going to do that.
Well, yeah. But what I'm saying is I'm really surprised in this kind of situation that he's not really hitting. But I got to tell you something. What I love about the WBC, and I loved it couple of years ago when it was playing, and of course you were there. Tommy Sitt, by the way, is our executive producer. You see him on the bottom right hand. So if it wasn't for Tommy, none of this would be happening. But he's Mr. Party Hardy today, so God bless him for that. But what I love about it, Dave and Drake, is players from the major leagues are in there. A buddy of mine called me up and he said, "Wait a minute, I thought these were players from other countries." Well, originally a lot of these guys are. Well, wait a minute. Nola isn't from Italy. I said, no, but his great-great-grandparents are from Nola, Italy, which is the town where they're from. I said, these guys all have, their backgrounds are Italian or Puerto Rican or they're Dominican or they're Japanese or something. And, they play. It's a wonderful tournament. I wish they would play it every year. Of course, I'm being selfish as a baseball fan.
I don't know if the major leagues would dig that very much. It'd be like having the World Cup every year, which is or even every 2 years, which is absurd to think about. But yeah, I mean, Drake and I have come out of ball games, especially when the Dominican's in town, with our ears ringing.
Yeah. Too bad you couldn't have made last night's game. You could have had your ears ringing again.
I think the other thing, and Drake, you and I talk about this all the time, is how much fun the players are having when they do play well. The Italians taking espresso shots in the dugout, the Dominicans in their celebrations. It's not just an ordinary baseball game, even though it's at a time when we're not used to games that count. These games do count, whether people like it or not.
Yeah, I mean, I'm for all of that stuff. I'm for, especially in that game when I'm growing up and watching everyone get upset when a guy hits a home run. He watches it or he throws his bat. And if you watch the game the other night, Japan and got who they were playing. I think it was Venezuela. Guy
Yeah.
hits a go-ahead home run. He throws his bat almost to the roof of the place in like the eighth inning, and it's like that's what it's about. It's just it's like all these like international events are happening at once, and I think it's taking the momentum from each one, and it's just kind of going and riding it out.
I think it takes us back to when we were kids and we played Little League Baseball or high school baseball or whatever the case may be. There's that kid inside of you that is still there, no matter if you're 21 or whether you're 35 years old playing baseball. There's a child in you. Both you and your dad both played basketball. And I don't know, Dave,
Well,
did you
there's a
play?
big difference between my basketball experiences and his.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's much better ball player than
Yes.
you were, that's for sure. But did
Yes.
you play at the U? No, right? Or did you?
Me?
Yeah,
No. As a matter of fact, when I was at the U, even if I had any kind of basketball ability, there was no team.
that's right. That's right. I keep forgetting. By the way, we'll get to it later,
Exactly
but
right. Exactly
I'm glad to
right.
see
No,
the
you got to remember, Gary, at the time that I was there was a period where the University of Miami had no basketball. You remember that, but maybe some of the
yeah,
audience doesn't.
yeah.
Other than the women's team, they had a very good women's team in that period. But
Hmm.
in fact, I remember playing in a media game against them, and I can't remember how it turned out. Uh, but yeah, it was a weird time. That program did not come back until the mid '80s under Bill Foster, who had coached Clemson for some time before that. So,
Right,
and they
right.
started at the Division II level. So it's I was around as an announcer, but no. I wasn't even barely. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't good enough to play in high school. My experiences were
What?
playground and PE class. No, I was terrible. I was a very poor athlete growing up. I'm probably a better athlete now than I was in my early years, which sounds weird, but it's true. I didn't have the healthiest childhood growing up, and that's why I think I took my love for sports into wanting to become a broadcaster.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, I played Little League Baseball. I tried out for high school football, and the head coach came over to me one day and he said, Gare, I think you're wonderful. You're a great student. Your brother's a wonderful professional football player, but you're not it. Okay, you're a baseball player, but you're not a football player. So that's took me away. And yeah, I got into broadcasting because there were a lot of good-looking girls in the broadcasting school at the U. So I mean that was my fallback. Drake, let's talk about the game that you were at. We're going to get back to the WBC in here in a second, but I have to hit this because it's on my craw. The Bam Adebayo fiasco that the Miami Heat are still apologizing for. You were there. You were an assistant at Washington at one time. God bless you. And what was your take on it?
I mean, like I'm okay with it. I'm okay with the record, and I'm okay with how they kind of like got to that point.
Yeah.
Um, Being at the game, it was weird kind of watching it happen and go, and at all of the different events like in the game where he achieves a record within the organization, his own records, and you're thinking as the game's going on, it's like, well, there's no way he's going to get to here. And then he gets there, and it's like, well, there's no way he's going to get to 80. Then he gets to 80, and then he gets to 81, and you're like, well, there's no way. It just kept happening. Like he goes off in the first, like a real, 31 points. He's
Yeah.
scoring at all, like at all levels. Then he gets his career high by halftime. And so, like in your mind, you're like, okay, 55-60 is on the table, but this game's like probably going to get like out of hand at some point. So he'll play, third quarter. He comes out with whatever he has. He
Yeah.
gets, the I think it was the Heat record, LeBron's record. Like at the end of the quarter, like has a dunk. So you think that's it. He gets a nice like a dunk on a fast break. He breaks
Yeah.
that record, and everyone like everyone in the arena has already had all the cheering. So
Yeah.
I wasn't the only one in this like in the crowd who was like, that's it. It's a 20-point game at that point. You're gonna be playing again in 2 days against Giannis. So like, what's the point of staying in the game? And then he walks out there for the fourth, and then first play of the game, I mean, first play of that quarter is run for him. You're like, oh, so this is a thing. Like they're attacking this record. And you could argue with the people who are saying about all the fouling at the end of the game. It wasn't an ethical way to go and do it. The one thing I'll say is maybe it's a little bit weird, like having to go like and foul them to have the ball back. But each time he got fouled, it was a foul. It was not like a situation where the refs weren't were helping him out. He was getting hacked, and he was just going to the line and he was making his free throws. You can argue the whole point of all the fouling and things like that, but every time a person's going after a record like that, it's not going to look clean. Even if you watched last year, and my dad would know with the Capitals record with Ovi, that was the only thing anyone ever cared about at these games. Every time he touched, even he had the puck at any point, people were losing their minds. Anytime he was around the net, people just wanted him in the game to go and break the record, and it became a novelty.
Yeah.
So I think any time in sports when there's a record about to be, about to happen, and things like that, like all of it kind of becomes a novelty in the end.
Yeah, you could be right. I mean, I remember
Gary,
they interviewed Dave. I don't know if you remember this or not, but it was a couple of weeks after Hank Aaron broke Babe Ruth's record. They interviewed the niece or the granddaughter of Babe Ruth, and she was nasty because they said something to the effect of, would Babe really be happy that Hank, somebody broke his record? And she said, no, he would not, especially if it was a black man.
Well, way to drag this thing into a territory that nobody saw coming there, Gary. But my thing.
Listen, sorry, Dave. I just want to interrupt for 1 second because he didn't break any records.
Go ahead.
He beat Kobe's record. That's it.
And that's by the way, what Kobe did
that's
wasn't
why
a record.
people. Right. It wasn't a record of nothing.
What he was scored 81, right?
The record is Wilt Chamberlain, and
yeah, right. I mean, he didn't have a record. He was just second, and the whole point is people are upset because it's Kobe. That's the only reason it caused an uproar, was because it's a player who was idolized. He's no longer alive.
Yeah,
and that becomes the whole thing about it. Was like, this is a record that wasn't, or a record. This was a number that wasn't supposed to be hit ever again.
Right.
And again, like, I think it actually is okay if it's like a Luka or like a Brunson or those guys who are known for having a lot of points. But when you have a Bam Adebayo who's averaging 21 a game, who's getting 4 times his average in a game, and toward the end it's not like a normal way, it's going to go and offend a lot of people who want to support Kobe. And I think that's where the uproar it began, was the Kobe fans, and then it just kind of became a trickle down after that.
Well, I had heard, Dave, you probably heard the same thing, that at the time that game was going on, the Lakers were playing in L.A., and when they announced over the announcer announced Bam Adebayo's record, there was boos for like 10 minutes on it, and you can naturally understand why.
Of course. I mean, and I'm curious as to who greenlit that, because I don't think the PA announcer did that without checking with somebody first.
No.
He might have checked with whoever his supervisor is, and that person said, yeah, why don't you see what happens, or yeah, it's okay, we don't mind, or whatever. I think Drake's right about the Kobe myth. Maybe if Kobe were alive, it would have been different. Maybe not. I don't know. But I was back and forth with it for a while, but if I remember right, the Wilt Chamberlain game, that's the mark from 1962. There was a lot of fouling at the end. There was some players who deliberately fouled out of the game because they didn't want to be part of it. The Heat were going to win that game. Because Washington, of course, is trying not to win very many games to get a good draft position. I understand the emotion around it. I think it did come out of the blue. That's another thing. It's unexpected, which usually is good for sports fans. Sports fans tend to like surprises. But I don't know, Gary, you called it already several names. So what was your problem with it?
By the way, I just wanted to let people know, when Wilt Chamberlain set the record of 100 points, it was not the 76ers. It was not the Philadelphia 76ers. Weren't they called the Philadelphia Warriors back then?
Yes, they were.
Yeah. My problem was, and Drake straightened it out here, he just mentioned it, the few clips that I saw, because I was watching the Celtics were playing at the same time, and I'm not going to miss out on my Boston Celtics.
Oh, I forgot we're talking to Bill Simmons here. Yeah, that's right.
Thank you very much. I just thought when Spoelstra has to, even a week later, still apologize or come up with some reasoning behind it, I thought the fouling was, and I wasn't there, so Drake, I have to take your word for it. I just thought it was kind of cheap. Plus, do that against the Boston Celtics, the New York Knicks, the LA Lakers, the Denver Nuggets. Do that against somebody of that caliber, not the Washington Wizards. And no offense, Drake, no offense. They were
Hey,
your
by the
team.
way, the Kobe game was against a very bad Toronto Raptors team.
Very bad.
The Wilt game
very,
was against a very bad Knicks team. You're
Okay.
not going to get that kind of a game against a high quality NBA team. So the 3 highest scoring games of all time were all
Yeah.
against teams that were not very good.
Okay, well, listen, I stand to be corrected, and that's fine, but I just found it kind of, I just didn't, I felt funny about it. That's all. I can't put a word on it. I
That's
just
okay.
felt kind
You're
of funny.
allowed.
Yeah.
It's like Strahan's final tackle of a quarterback. I just felt like somebody fell down to get that record for him. And it just didn't feel right. And maybe I'm coming from the point of view of a brother of a professional football player or a professional athlete, and I'm just coming from a different direction. And I look at things, records and things, as something very important to be honored nowadays when we don't honor a whole heck of a lot. But, you know, one question though, Drake, why I have you on here too, and this is great. Are the Wizards really trying to can the season?
Well, I wouldn't go and use the words "can" on the season. If you look at what they're trying to accomplish, it's not like a unique thing in
No.
in basketball. They aren't the first team who did this, and they. I mean, who knows with all the new rules if this will be the last kind of run of legitimate, not basic trying to win all of your games and compete for a playoff spot. They're just relying on all of their young guys who are new to the NBA. Like, if you look at their roster, they don't have a guy over the age of, besides now Anthony Davis, they're all guys in their 20s and even their teens who are just trying to learn how to win or just how to learn like what the NBA is about and how to go like and handle yourself as a pro and how to go and handle like 82 games and all the ups and downs with it. And so it's more of this roster construction too. Like they don't have a winning roster, and yes, that's partially kind of like you know that's what they want. But also, it's not like you're walking in the locker room like, "Hey guys, relax. Like we're winning this game right now, and we have to lose it." That's
Yeah.
not like that was never that was never a mindset each day, like, like in the locker room. It wasn't about we have to lose.
Right.
That was never the talk. It was how do we improve? And a lot of the times with all these young guys, the best way to improve is you just go and throw them out there and you see what happens.
Yeah.
Because obviously, like at the end of the day, the best way to like get better is being in games. You can have guys in like a practice mode all you want, but if you throw them in games and they haven't improved or felt that kind of intensity, it's
Right.
going to be different. That's why there's a lot of teams you see in the league who don't ever have a draft pick that's a good one, and like each year it's the same roster, or they're always trying to go get like a veteran
Right.
because they don't do a really good job of taking all of the young guys and throwing them out there. And I honestly, like it's a random example, but the Clippers for the longest amount of time have been like have a star, and then we're gonna try and go win. And this year they obviously go and like can they make a deal with Harden, and now they're going and using guys off the bench, and those guys are improving and they're actually winning games.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think like I would never say a team's trying to lose. There are occasions where with the Utah Jazz a couple times it was, you know, like we're up in a game and we had guys who played. We're just not going to go and play them.
Right.
That's a bit egregious. You could argue. But it's never like I would never say you walk into a game or you walk into a week and you look at the schedule and say, we're going to lose this one on purpose and this one on purpose. Here's a game we're
Yeah.
going to go and try and win, I guess is the way to go and put it.
Here's a question I've always wanted to ask, and I think I asked your dad to ask you last year, but I think your dad forgot. And I know kind of the answer because I asked my brother this question once too. When you're the Washington Wizards. Now I'll go back to when you were assistant there a year ago, right? Can we go back that far here? Just 1 year. And you're going up against the New York Knicks or you're going up against the Boston Celtics, or you're going up against a team that obviously is upper echelon. What goes through the thinking when you look around at your roster and you go, "Well, we've been losing 9 out of 10. What? How do you motivate a team to get ready to play somebody like that that is obviously kicking ass wherever they go in the league?"
I think it's like a lot of it, and you learn is, and it's everyone at every level of of being an athlete is a pride thing more than
Mhm.
anything. At the end of the day, like you're not gonna because as you know, like especially now, Twitter and Instagram and all these things, like if you get embarrassed, it's gonna get like
Yeah.
it's gonna be everywhere. And so I think a lot of guys now are motivated by I'm not trying to be the next highlight. I'm not trying to be the next headline. So regardless of who you have on your roster, regardless of who you're going to be going against, obviously it did happen with the Heat and the Wizards, but it's like I'm not trying to be the guy who Giannis had 50 on. I'm not like let's not try to be the team where something happens. Now, obviously, with that, like you go into every game and you have a game plan, just like every other game. Like each game is independent and it resets after the last one. Once the
Mhm.
game ends on a Tuesday night on the road, by the time all of us are on the plane or on the bus going to the next place, it's over and we're going to the next game. It's not there's too many games to have kind of emotions
Right.
probably over an hour after the game.
Yeah.
And so I will say it's like a lot of the and like that's a part of learning with all these guys. I bet you if you ask Cooper Flag, this is probably the most he's lost in his life.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
so, it's all these, like that's the thing you have to think about too is it's not always about learning how to win. It's learning how to go and move on to the next game and try and be effective because all these guys are playing in college 30 games in a season.
Yeah.
And in the first 2 months of the year, they're already going, "Hey, hit that as a point." And there's a good chance all these guys in the top of the draft probably won at least 80 to 85% of those games. And so now you're having to go and learn how do you
Right.
handle losing 10 in a row? How do you handle getting your ass kicked over and over and over again?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
how do you learn how to be like, "Hey, this is a new game. This is a new thing. I'm gonna go out there and play the game and I see what happens." And in this league too, like the talent is insane. It's these guys are unbelievable basketball players.
Yeah.
And it's the argument I've always had with people about, "Oh, the NBA doesn't have defense." And it's like, that's not true because
No.
I would say 85 to 90% of all scouting reports is on that end of the floor. But the issue is all the players are so all the players are so talented, it's impossible to go and stop them. Like there isn't a scouting report on James Harden. He's too good. Like,
Yeah.
that's half the league. And so, once you understand all of these aspects and nuances, and I've obviously got to witness it firsthand, it's just a
Yes.
different thing where it's like, you don't even go and worry about, like, a record or how many losses you have in a row. It's just like, we have a game tonight. This is what we're all, here to do, and if we win, we win, and if we lose, we lose, and we go on to the next one.
Right. Yeah, I remember asking my brother that question, and he said, "Gary, the number one thing you got to learn how to do when you go from college to pro, in his case football, was when you lose and you move on. You got to learn how to win. And you got to learn that from veterans and how they do it and how they deal with it. You know, I mean, he played in the biggest upset in his Super Bowl history, Super Bowl three. And I cried like a baby on the sidelines. And he looked at me and he said, "What are you crying about? It's a damn football game." And I was, that's how I took it from then on in. It was like, it's a game. It's a living to them, but to you and I, it's a game, So it is what it is. Real quick before we get into the NCAAs, I want to get back to the WBC if I can. Dave, if we don't start hitting, depending upon who we're going to play in the next round, it could be a long night. I mean, for us in general, because the pitching was great last night, but will those arms be available tomorrow?
Well, not Paul Skeens, no. And I mean, the bullpen has a day to rest. So I think that you have no trouble with the arms, and there's an old, you could bring out whoever you want to bring out. I can't imagine anybody going out and pitching 7 innings of hero ball. That's out of the question at this time of the year.
Yeah.
So I'm not really that concerned about it. I think that the two biggest threats, really the three biggest threats, were Puerto Rico, the Dominican, and Japan. And those teams have been eliminated. So and the United States obviously would have to be considered a threat. Yeah, it'd be great to get better hitting right now, but this is still preseason. You still have guys who probably are not in the regular form they're going to be in May and June, hopefully, depending on like your Bryce Harper, in my case, Gunnar Henderson for Baltimore. So I don't know. I'm taking it seriously, but not to the point where I'm going to like worry about it if the United States doesn't win. It's a wonderful environment to be around. It's again, I'm regretting that I'm not going to be around to go to the game tonight, or well, I could go tonight, but I'm not, and then or Tuesday night for the title,
Right.
because the best baseball game I've ever seen in person, I went with a friend of mine 3 years ago, was Mexico and Japan in the WBC semifinals, where Japan came back and with a ninth inning rally and beat Mexico, and Otani had a double to start the rally, and it was a magnificent night. Best game I've seen live.
Yeah.
So that's what the potential for this thing is. The other thing I've noticed is that there's some of the baseball writers who like the event are wondering if it couldn't be done the way hockey did the Olympics this year. Take a break. Put this in July. Put this as the All-Star break, and make do a tournament that way. Sacrifice some of the season. Now the problem with baseball is that if you extend the season too far, then you start getting into weather that in certain markets is just going to possibly really screw things up, because we already have enough trouble sometimes in March in some cities. So what would happen if we stretch this and all of a sudden your World Series doesn't end until November? That's the downside of thinking of doing it that way, unless you shorten the season, which all of a sudden now Steve Kerr wants to shorten the NBA season. Some people want to shorten the Major League Baseball season. So we'll see if that ever happens. I doubt it, but it'd be interesting.
Sort of like the NCAA or the Big Ten and the SEC, they want to increase the football playoff system to 24 games or 48 games or whatever the case may be, which is what they're also talking about with the NCAA March Madness. They want to maybe extend that a little bit, which I'm not really for. I think 64 is an ideal number, and I think that's where it's going. We've got an interesting tournament coming up. The Big Four: Duke, Florida, Arizona, and Michigan. And Duke is the number 1 overall seed through the entire tournament. And I have it right in front of me here. Let's see. The SEC has 10 games. The Big Ten has 9 teams in. The ACC has 8. The Big East has 3, and the West WCC has 3. So it's kind of dispersed kind of nicely. I'm really glad to see. Of course, the ACC was always a basketball conference, so it's kind of cool. Tommy, we can really hear you pounding away on those keys, babe. We can really hear you pounding away. Those 4 number 1 seeds, how far do you think they can go?
You want to start?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Or whoever wants to go.
Go ahead.
I mean, Duke's in a really hard spot. Duke got kind of hurt with who got put in with them. To have a potential matchup in the Sweet 16 against Kansas is insane to have. Either Kansas or St. John's. That's going to be who they'll see in the third round, which is hard enough as it is. And then you have MSU on top of that, who they could go see in the Elite Eight. So in that East region, they're in a really tough spot. And people always want to argue in March it takes, older guys to have to win. I think that Duke has a good combination of that. They do have a couple of older guys who've been around the way a little bit, who've been there for a couple of years. You have guys who were on the team last year who went all the way to the last rounds. And obviously you have the player of the year, possibly a number 1 overall pick with Boozer as well. Kind of goes and has a balance to their whole entire roster. Michigan's overwhelming, I think, with their size. Coaching is obviously great.
Yeah.
I think they have a really good chance probably to go all the way. Now, obviously, we haven't gone and seen, except for one time, with all the 1 seeds in the championship round in the finals. So it's been a long time. I think Arizona is really good and has a good chance. I do think they have to worry about their next game, second round game if Utah State advances. I'm really high on them, and Arizona will have to go and play them pretty early on as a good test with the 1-8. And Florida is Florida. Obviously, they got trounced in their last game against Vanderbilt, but
Oh man,
that's,
did they ever? Did they ever?
yeah.
Wow.
And that's, like, I would say that's more of a Vanderbilt having a home game in the SEC tournament in Nashville, and Florida just kind of ran out of gas. So now it's just a matter of seeing in these tournaments, it's all about your defense, because your offense can come and go as the game is going on. But if you can limit the other team from getting on the glass and making a whole bunch of threes, then your defense can kind of hold strong, and then you can keep on advancing. Or like I would guess, if I had to go like look at the bracket and look at who everyone's facing, I think all the 1 seeds will probably get to at least the Elite Eight.
You think so? You don't see any bumps along the way for those guys in the lower rounds, the earlier rounds.
I mean, you can, but that's the hard part with the NCAA tournament, is just that it's so hard to go like and determine what's going to happen. It's a 1 game thing. It's not, you're not really taking all the data. These are a lot of teams that haven't gone and played against yet, like before, on a neutral court, and it's just a different environment. Like, I've been in a couple of them, and it's a whole different environment. It feels different. All the basketballs are new, and that's the thing every year that is like a small kind of a footnote, is the basketballs are overinflated.
Really?
And so I think that with that, all the basketballs, you'll see like especially in the earlier rounds, shooting numbers will be lower, turnovers will be higher, because those basketballs have way too much air in.
Really? And does anybody bother to complain about it?
I think it's one of those things where it's just like, people complain, but if it's each team using the exact same ball, then
Right.
what are you going to do?
Yeah, I guess so. Dave, what's your
Well,
take?
I'm looking at I look at Purdue, and you mentioned Vanderbilt and Florida. Now Florida was the best team in the SEC, and they got clocked in the final. Well, Michigan was the best team in the Big Ten. You actually had 2 number 1 seeds that lost their conference finals, and both times they got blowed out. Now, is Purdue did have a terrific start to their season, and then they kind of limped in until they got to the Big Ten tournament. They're at the bottom of the bracket where Arizona is. So if they happen to get to that combination, it could be a fantastic 1-2 matchup. I don't think Purdue can be dismissed at all. I look at Houston as another team. Drake and I have talked about them. He's had experience in dealing with them. I had experience in dealing with them early in Kelvin Sampson's tenure as he was building this thing. They play a aggressive. There's no mystery about what kind of coach Kelvin Sampson is. He is to the floor at all times. His players know this, so they're okay with it. Some people we worry about, these guys yelling too much. Look, that's Kelvin Sampson, folks. He's going to do what he does, and it's successful, and his players completely are on his side. So they're difficult. We mentioned UConn. Seems like the only time we talk about UConn anymore is when Dan Hurley acts a fool, and that's darn near every game. But I like UConn's path at least to get through a couple of wins. It'd be interesting to see if they run into, I think Michigan State might be a team they would bump into. That would be very interesting. It's really hard to go against Tom Izzo and the other team.
Yeah.
And the comments came out immediately when the seeding was announced. St. John's as a 5 is suspect.
Yeah.
I think they should have gotten a better number than 5 for what they did.
Right. What's the deal? Excuse me. What's the deal with Ohio, Miami of Ohio? They had a great record. Is it the competition? Is it the competition that they had that everybody's kind of frowning on?
Yeah. So with Miami, and I have experience with them. I played against them 4 years because I played in that exact same league when I was in college, in the MAC. They don't have a game in Quad 1. So, like, in their Quad 1 record, they're 0-0, which is a huge thing. What the NCAA tournament committee looks at is, like, obviously is your record in each quad, and they don't have a game in that quad. So that, like, automatically people kind of turn an eye to them. Now, their coach, he came out a couple weeks ago and was like, "Look, like, we tried." Like a lot of people are asking us, and I'm kind of with this. If you're a mid-major, low major, and you're offering to, go to a high major for like a game in like a non-con part,
Right.
like he tried to get his team to a higher ranking earlier in the year, but all these teams told him, like, you guys are too good, and so that can affect them, and so that's why I got like their record was kind of just like, whatever. But at the end of the day, took like 30-0 or 31-0 is the same thing. at the end of the day, you're playing a league in the MAC where all those teams are Division I teams, regardless of like how good the league is. It's a very top heavy league, especially recently. But it's still 18-0 in a Division I conference, and to go and tell them you guys can go undefeated, it doesn't matter. But if you lose a game, there's a chance that you won't go and make it in. And it also doesn't make sense if you're a part of the AP rankings and you rank them 18 or 19 and they lose one game and all of a sudden they're in the first four. A lot of that doesn't really add up. And I think it's all just because they didn't play a game in quad one. And that's not their fault either.
No, it's not. And that happens sometimes in football. You get teams that are ducking teams. In football, I remember when Boise State started to come on a while back now because they've kind of been part of the establishment, but they had a very hard time getting, and they were willing to do 1-for-2 deals. You come to our place once, we'll go to your place twice. And they couldn't even get some schools to sign off on that. The other thing is that the team that did win the MAC is really good.
It's better than them.
And Drake has said that before, that he thinks that Akron is better. And Akron, for a MAC champ, drew a 12, which is really good. That coach, John Gross, used to be at Illinois, and it didn't work out for him there. That's when they brought in Brad Underwood, and he's done very well with Illinois. And by the way, they're going to be a pain to deal with in this tournament. But Akron, unfortunately, drew a very difficult 5 in Texas Tech, who obviously should be better than them athletically. And even without their best player, it's still going to be pretty rugged. But yeah, that league, when it's good, it does have a really strong team like Akron. I'll be curious to see what the bettors do to that, if they look at Akron as a sleeper, or if they realize that Texas Tech has an edge. But the 5 should usually have an edge, and the traditional 5-12 upset, maybe it's High Point against Wisconsin, because High Point is a big offensive team, and Wisconsin generally likes to keep things quiet in games. But yeah, I'm obviously a big fan of that league, having been involved in it either as an announcer or as a parent spectator for years. So I'll be rooting for Akron and rooting for Miami to do well.
What about our school, Dave? How far do you think we're going to go?
Well, it's a weird draw that they get Missouri basically in Missouri's backyard. I'm very happy with the season they had. I believe they have the biggest turnaround of any team in the tournament. Last year it was an 8-win program.
Yeah,
and they stayed patient, which is always a good idea. And they've discovered something here with a. Now Missouri will be difficult. Miami drawing a 7, but getting Missouri, that was a strange decision to make for the and then they would have to take on Purdue. I somehow don't think that Queens College is going to pull the upset there.
No.
Purdue. People have been ragging on Purdue for years for not performing well in the tournament when they've had top-seeded teams. I think Purdue will beat Miami, if Miami even beats Missouri. But for the Hurricanes, it's a good base to work with. It's been a nice season.
Yeah.
It's the expectations for UM basketball are always going to be different from football. Simply because the program, while popular, is not as popular. It doesn't have the imprint in this market that UM football does, but that's South Florida in general. The Dolphins are always going to be the number 1 team here, and number 2 is who's ever winning titles. So currently that's the Panthers. But if they don't make the playoffs this year, then maybe it'll be the Heat, because the Heat look like they'll be a playoff team, maybe not even a play-in team. So yeah, I think the Hurricanes got a rough break, but they're in, and let's just enjoy that. As far as I'm concerned, it's house money.
Yeah, UCF is also, or USF, excuse me, USF
both of them
are in the tournament since the first time since 2012, and they could, they could make some hay.
Drake, you like that coach, right? At South Florida?
Their coach he's been a head coach now 3 years totally, including I think it's Arkansas State, and then it's at USF. And can you believe, like, everything out there Twitter wise, he's out of there after this year already. Either Syracuse, it sounds like, is going to be his next school. And if you can go and walk into a school like that and the conference like that, and you can win the league year one and be obviously you're the best team in that league, it's impressive. He's like a Nate Oates guy. He worked for Oates for a really long time.
Right.
Uh, so he's coming from that kind of like heavy offense, but he also has more of like a grit kind of to him. Like obviously, when I always went to Alabama, he took more of an NBA kind of model for his his team and his offense. Hodgins has kind of kept like a grit to his teams, like a fighting kind of mentality, but while also having two of the best like offensive shooters in I got probably the entire country. I think I saw a stat. They're one of two schools in the entire country who have two guys who made over 100 threes this year. So be aware of them at that line. It's a tough matchup. Louisville's a really good team. And it's odd that, in my opinion, Louisville has a higher seed than Miami, who obviously like outworked them in the ACC a little bit.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Well, I think them. Who did Miami get blown out the other day?
Virginia.
Virginia. Okay, and that was
Virginia's good.
probably yeah.
very good.
They
Virginia's
could do
got
some upsets. Yeah.
Virginia's a deserved 3 seed. I happened to catch a couple of the games they played in the ACC tournament. They beat NC State, then they beat UM, and they've got they've got something that a lot of teams don't have, which is an eraser in the middle.
Yeah.
They have a guy that you can funnel your defense into and go, hey, guess what? Welcome to the middle. Now you're about to eat your shot. Considering where they were when their highly successful coach and Tony Bennett just ups and leaves the game before a season starts, and the fact that they're able to still rebound from that loss because Bennett obviously took them to a title. It's a solid team. I would be very, very leery of Virginia moving forward as somebody who can score an upset.
Wisconsin too.
Hey, Drake Lamont. Question for
What,
you.
Tom?
Does Rick
What did Tommy say? I didn't hear him.
repeat not only as a Big East 2-time winner, does he just take it to the Final Four and win it?
Well, sitting in a 5 seed, it's going to be hard but not impossible. I mean, there's an argument to be made that he might be the best college basketball coach of all time, but maybe with the exception of John Wooden and all those championships. And I know Coach K has more wins, and Pitino's record isn't exactly spotless. But if you look at everywhere he's gone, those teams go to the tournament. Even Iona, which was supposed to be his comeback position, and we thought, okay, well, he's at Iona now. Well, Iona has a decent history, and he won there, and he's winning here. And he's probably in a great spot in New York too. So you can make that argument that he's one of the greatest, easily one of the greatest ever, and some would even say the best of all time. I don't know if I'd go that far.
Well,
question from Tommy regarding Arkansas. I don't know, Drake. You've seen them. You think they might have a very difficult first round game?
Yeah, I mean, with Arkansas, they obviously have like a lottery pick on their team in that guard, Terry Sakoff, who was SEC Freshman of the Year and also Player of the Year. And he averages 22 and 6 a game, but they're playing Hawaii, and a lot of teams in the Big West every year usually hang on. I don't know if they'll win the game, but I think the spread is high single digits, like 8.5 or 9. I think Hawaii can hang on because a lot of those teams are really good in the Big West. It's a small league, honestly, but if you look at like historically, a lot of those teams in that conference hang on in their games, and like I think in the last 10 years they're 500 actually in first round games. And Arkansas, obviously, Coach Kyle has all the experience and they have all the right talent. But at the end of the day, it's one game. If A-Cup he goes cold, like he did against Ole Miss, actually, like in the game they almost lost. It can be a different game. Like all a team has to do in March is get hot. Like if
how
you
about
make a couple
UCLA?
threes early.
How about UCLA?
Well, they got UCF. You got two really disparate personalities there. A rather laid-back Johnny Dawkins and a rather not-so-laid-back Mick Cronin. I have not seen UCF play this year. UCLA, it seems like we had our yearly Cronin meltdown, which is as predictable as the sun rising and setting. And he got it out of the way about mid-season, which is about when it usually happens. And this last one was I thought, pretty stupid. But yet somehow he gets his guys to play for him. And Yeah, I think they'll beat UCF, but then I do believe they run into most likely UConn next. So that could be a complete referee's nightmare. Imagine you make it to the NCAA tournament and okay, what's my second round match? Oh God, I've got these two guys, Cronin on one side and Hurley on the other. So that's going to be a nightmare for any official. You're going to need to have it's something else. Another guy who seems to get away with more than they should. I don't know why they weren't harder on Todd Golden at the SEC tournament, the Florida coach. I don't know, Drake. You've talked to these guys, the refs, and we both know one. A good friend of mine used to ref for a while and is now working for the SEC. But sometimes I think these guys tolerate more than they should from coaches.
Yeah, I mean, I think a part of it is, it gives relationships with these. Obviously, when you go through a conference here, and even like in like a non-con games, you're seeing probably the same refs at one point, probably 8 to 10 times a year. You can have a ref who's doing one of your games, and so I think, especially for like a Golden, who and now he's won, he has a natty, and he has more of a rapport. I think it's not I wouldn't say it's like getting away with stuff. Like I think it all depends on what they're actually using as words instead of the tone of how it looks. Like if Golden or someone is getting on like a ref's ass, but he's arguing a call and he's not using, crazy language that can be heard around the whole arena. He's just arguing about the call. I think a ref will go and let that go. I actually think a ref is more inclined to give like the tech based on words than actions.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
think Hurley's like Hurley's a combination of both, obviously, and
Yes.
that's what gets him in trouble. But I do think with like a couple guys, there's going to be a lot of yelling, but as long as there's not cursing or calling the ref a name or something like that, like a
Uh-huh.
lot of refs will let that stuff just kind of go, like unless it becomes totally out of control and it's over and over and over again.
Yeah. What let's end we've got about 10 minutes left to go. How do you guys feel about expansion? There's been a lot of
In what
talk.
sport?
Well, obviously we're talking college basketball right now.
Oh, that
You know,
expansion. I'll
yes.
just I'll cut you off right now. I hate it. 68
Yeah.
is where we're at.
Yeah.
And I'm not even fond of that. I think what happens is you're screwing conference champions, particularly the small college champions, particularly the HBCUs, who don't get a true automatic berth, that have to earn their way in, and some other
Yeah.
schools too. Either put them in or leave them out, but every single conference champion should be in that 1 through 16 without having to play in. It's hard enough as it is that one of them, I think, is going to end up having to play. Well, not Siena is who drew Duke, but there are some schools in Michigan that is going to play a team that's already had a game, and Florida's got the same situation. I just don't think that's right. It's great for the city of Dayton. Good for them to be the host on Wednesday night, and it's more opportunities for more basketball. But I like a tight 64. It's where it should be. It's where it is, and hopefully. But the other thing is the trend toward expansion happened in football, and
Yeah.
it seems like no one is ever satisfied anymore. I don't know when anyone can sit back and go, okay, we're kicking back now. We're going to head to the beach house in Destin or the Hawaiian Islands and just let this happen. College basketball was the last time that happened, and now they're threatening to mess with it, and I am not fond of it at all.
Neither am I. I'm with you. I said at the beginning of the program, it's not one of my expansion, even with the NCAA football.
What you're threatening to do, and the thing about the NCAA football, Gary, is that, and the NFL's going to do the same thing. They're going to go to an 18th game.
Yeah.
And the Super Bowl is now going to be after Valentine's Day if they continue to do this kind of thing. It's a point now where nobody seems to care about the injury factor. How many significant NFL injuries do we have this year to quarterbacks, which is the position you're trying to protect? But no matter how many rules you put in place, they're still getting hurt. Other key people are getting hurt. Well, the same thing's going to happen in college if you continue to pile on more games with these guys. And are we going to get the very best teams by the time that survive? Are we just going to get the battle of who has the best doctors and trainers and the best rehab in their facilities?
Exactly, Dave.
That's what I worry about. It's not more than anything else. It's just watering down the product with more and more and more and more. And that's what I don't care for. I love to watch the NFL. And I certainly follow it as much as I can, but same with college football. I do think there comes to a point where you become less interested the more there is. It's this old story of my dad told me this, and it might be apocryphal, it might be total BS, but he said he worked at an ice cream store when he was young, and they said, "Okay, Betty, go for it. Your first day on the job, just eat all you can." And he ate so much he never wanted to eat ice cream again.
Yep,
And it's kind of the same. Now, that may be BS, although my dad wasn't the type of person to lie, so it probably is a true story. But it's the same thing here. College football does well? Well, looky here. How about we make this a 2014 playoff? And naturally, there's greed involved.
Yes.
Naturally, because the networks will pay. But here's the thing, Gary. If you are Gary Allen, ESPN executive, and you look at this, and you look at the bottom line of a contract, and you go, "Look at this. This is going to do for my network. This is going to bring in more money."
Yeah.
How do you say no to that? You can't. So it comes down to money, and most things usually do in life.
Yeah. They, excuse me a second here.
Did I get you choked up, Gary?
I did something on the computer. One of my professors at the University of Miami and my dad always used to say, if you want to know the answer to anything, just follow the money. And that's true. That's very true. Drake, how do you feel about
all the President's Men, my friend?
Yeah.
Follow the money.
How about you, Drake? How do you feel about expansion in the March Madness?
I don't like it either, and I actually agree with my dad on one of the parts is it screws over the MEAC and the SWAC. And as a guy who was a player who was hunting to go to an NCAA tournament, and as a coach who was for a couple years in the NCAA tournament, like having those games in Dayton is great, and it's a cool environment. It's the first four, and it's all these things, but it's not the same as like you get to go to an NBA arena or an arena that's in like you're still playing like a college arena. And I think like a lot of the like appeal of the NCAA tournament is like you're taking a small team who like, and especially in the SWAC and MEAC, especially all these schools that have to spend all of non-con on the road getting their ass kicked because they need the money. And so they have to play an 18-game schedule in conference and grind through a conference tournament after having a very hard and testing kind of non-con. And your reward is like it's automatic. It's like it doesn't matter who wins that league because Howard's the best team in the MEAC. It didn't matter. You could have asked anyone who knows anything about college basketball, and they would have said they're going to be first 4, 16 line. And the exact same thing happened with the Prairie View. Just go and make them a 16. If you want to use a first 4, use it for how they use the 11 seed. Like I think that would help teams who are on the bubble more is if you put them in the first 4. So instead of having, like a 16 and a 16, that's, 4 teams you're using on the 16 line. Just have those teams on the 16 and bump everybody up 1. And then you have all the 11s are going to be in the first 4. You do the 11 line and the 12 line in the first 4 because that's the area around the bubble. I just think it's just not kind of fair to these teams who get a once in a lifetime opportunity, especially in the smaller schools. Yeah. And your reward is like you're going to play a team who's equal to you essentially on the stat sheet. The only thing that's a positive I say in that is for like the school history is you can add and say it's an NCAA tournament win. So for a coach and for a school, that part of it is like, like I understand you can have that to a school record of this is our, like our first ever NCAA tournament win. And I would say like it's the last part about that whole thing with the first 4 that's kind of unfair is you're like a 16, like, and you're playing your heart out to try and win this game against a 16. 36 hours later, you're going to play a 1 seed.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
look at Maryland. Get smoked.
Look at Maryland, Baltimore County. They beat Vermont. Vermont traditionally dominates that conference. Maryland, Baltimore County beats them. Maryland, Baltimore County is a team that as a 16 beat a 1, and now they're going to have to do it again because if they beat Howard, then they're going to do it again. Drake's got a good idea. The Miami, Ohio, SMU, Texas, NC State borderline teams, maybe. But I just think, man, if you hang that conference banner in the next season, then you're in the damn tournament, and I mean the top 64.
Yeah. By the way, Dave, I worked at an ice cream joint when I was in high school, and I ate so much ice cream for like 3 or 4 years afterwards. I never touched ice cream again for a while, for a
Yeah,
long while.
it's kind of the same principle, but unfortunately, right now, well, I think also the conferences, because the SEC seems to always be leading this, although the Big Ten is now trying to pull a slip shot and not slip and get around them.
Yeah.
It's like, well, wait a minute, they're doing it. Well, we got to do it too because we'll make more money. That's what it's going to do, and we can make our TV contracts bigger. There's so much money in college sports involving television, and the big sports. Of course, the non-revenue sports suffer. But
Yep.
the so-called non-revenue sports suffer. But yeah, that's what this is all about. It always will be.
All right. We're down to the last couple of minutes, so now it's time for your picks. When it's all said and done, gentlemen, and Tommy, you can put up a sign if you want, because who's going to win it all? Who's going to be the king of the hill when it's all said and done? Mr. Dave, what do you
I'm going to
say?
take Arizona.
All right. Drake?
I'm going to have to take Michigan. I think it'll be it's the size, it's the ability to go and score offensively, it's the coaching. The coach who's been there already with obviously a much lesser team. So
Tommy?
They are good. They are
Tommy,
good.
who do you got? Somebody tell me what he said. Who did Tommy say?
He didn't.
Oh, he didn't. He's not going to pick?
He stayed out of this one.
Okay. I'm going to pick Duke only because of my brother.
Well,
Only
it's not
because
like you made a difficult choice there either.
No, but I mean, Mike went to Duke, okay?
You didn't go out on a limb with that one. I mean, if you had picked something like Penn, I would have said you've gone out on a limb.
Yeah, well, I mean, if I'd gone to college there, I wouldn't be worried about anything. But I'm just picking it because I'm not really familiar with everybody that's playing, but I know there's some teams along the way that are going to have an upset. And but I just want to thank Dave Lamont, Drake Lamont, for taking the time to join us here today. Dave is going to be back next month. We're going to have Drake back from time to time, talk NBA basketball, talk
Did he know
NCAA.
that?
Well, I think he just found out. I think he just found out. I don't think he has any choice in the matter now.
No, I think he's got plenty of choices in the matter. I can't tell him what to do anymore. So,
well, that's true. But from what your mom says about you and your dad, you're a wonderful young man. So I'm grateful that you managed to spend the time to come on with us today. And thank you very much. And I wish you nothing but happiness. I know you're teaching some basketball at a local school down there. God bless you for that and everything. And I want to thank Tommy Sitt out there, my executive producer, for putting this all together for us today. Thank you very much, Tommy. Next week, Randy West is going to join us about his new book about Hollywood, opening up and looking behind the curtain at some of the disastrous and interesting stories that made up Hollywood over the last 150 years or whatever you want to call it.